How do you come up with achievements when you are a fresher? You may be surprised by my answers. Stay tuned to find out. Hey, this is Michael with Michael's Business English. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Rincon. I'm a former six-figure data analyst, turned ESL instructor, and career coach. If you're new here, we talk about business English, communications, and career development. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you like and subscribe, and all the links that I mentioned in this video you can find in the description. So I want to begin today's video with a quote. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. This is by Albert Einstein. Now, what this means is that a lot of people, especially freshmen, they're kind of like, I don't know what value I have. I have no idea what I can talk about. I don't know what my achievements are. I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished anything useful. I haven't done anything relatively important. I don't have a lot of experience, so on and so forth. And what I want you to do before we begin is to take a deep breath. If you're super neurotic like I am, you're probably having it's probably worse for you than it is for most people. And just understand, whatever it is, we will figure out a way to find the value that you bring, find your achievements, because I promise you, whether you realize it or not, you have something of value that you can put on your resume or your CV. Now, in order to identify the achievements that we want to talk about that you might want to find useful, we want to first figure out what the achievements we need to have that are important for our career. So even though you're probably a fresher in college, if you're watching this video, you're probably just brand new, you don't have a lot of work experience, or maybe you just graduated college, or whatever the reason is that you found this video, before we even decide and look into what our achievements are and try to figure out what value we bring to a company or an organization or whatever the goal is for you, what we need to do first is determine our end goal, because not all achievements are made equal in the same field. So for example, one of my first students was a web developer, and one thing I noticed right away was that in his resume, he put in that he had experience with SEO and content writing, which that's useful, that's a good skill to have, only if that's the jobs you're applying for. And the jobs that my student was applying for was web developer ops positions. And one thing he told me was he wants to be in developer ops. He wants to be building applications. So it was weird to me that he put into his resume that he was good with SEO, because most employers are not looking for an SEO guy for DevOps positions. So before we even start looking into what my achievements are, what can I talk about, what makes me special, we need to understand what our end goal is first. So make sure you think about that as you're going along with this, that you figure out what are the jobs that you're looking for. And it's okay to have more than one job that you're interested in, but what that's going to mean for you is you're going to have multiple resumes or CVs. And I'll talk about that in another video, but basically you have to understand that when you're writing out your application, your resume, your CV, you want it to be as crystal clear as possible. You want it to be almost like a sniper rifle. You want it to be like a sniper shot directly for that position. You want the employer to feel that you are the best fit for that role and that you're almost exclusively for that role. So even though this action step I'm going to give you right now is not necessarily going to help you directly with your achievements, it's going to give you an idea of what you can talk about as an achievement. So I want you to build an action plan, come up with the job positions and titles you're interested in. If you know the industries you're interested in, that's going to help you as well. The more specific you can be, the easier the job search becomes later down the line. So put that down somewhere, take out a piece of paper, right on the top of the paper, job title / industry. If you don't have a specific title in mind, that's okay. Just put something out there. So for example, maybe you have a specific thing you want to do. Maybe you want to be a writer. Maybe you want to be building databases. Maybe you want to be an application developer. Maybe you don't know the title, but what are the things that you want to do in your career? Do you want to do things with data? Do you want to build spreadsheets, or do you want to be more of a relationship builder? Or do you want to do things with the graphic design? Do you want to do art? Do you want to do cartoons? Just put down something at the top of your paper, the interest that you have, and start categorizing them, start putting them into sections. If you don't have a specific title, start putting them into some sort of bubble And when you start doing the next step, this will make more sense, because what we're going to do next is we're going to go on Google and we're going to start looking for these roles. And if you have the title, that's going to be easier. But if not, just look for jobs that require graphic design, for example. Jobs that utilize so-and-so degree, whatever the degree you're interested in, or how to make money with so-and-so skill. If you're trying to learn how to be a writer, like how to make money as a writer. And we're going to use Google searches. We're going to use the data to see what are the things that people are looking for. So if you have job titles, you can look at job descriptions and see what are the skills that are coming up. What are the technical skills and the soft skills that employers look for. If you're just going through random Google searches, it'll be a little bit more broader, and you'll get quite a few titles though. And so you'll have, for example, like maybe you can be an editor if you want to be a writer, or you can be a blog writer, you can be an email writer, you can be a sales page writer, you can be a deck response copywriter, and you can see the different skills that are required. And this is really in part to kind of prime you. It's like, oh, because you're going to look at this job description, you're going to look at these skills that are required for these interests, and you're like, oh, I've done stuff like that before. Or if you haven't done stuff like that before, you have at least an idea of what you should be looking for, what skills you need to be focused on next. Because this is the next part of their plan, is we're going to cultivate the skills we need to create these achievements. Now, as you are gathering this information, you're gathering a list of jobs, you're gathering a list of job applications, you're gathering a list of job titles and skills that are required for these jobs, start putting them into different sections into this piece of paper. So if you know a job requires like certain skills, writers typically require SEO for the internet, like that should be something you put down as a skill. And I want you to put down markers. So this is a skill you have, this is a skill you don't have, this is an achievement you have, this is an achievement you don't have. There are things in there that you've done. So that most of the jobs are going to have universal kind of like soft skill requests, like ability to, like high attention to detail is pretty common. Ability to get along with others is pretty common. Ability to be a self-starter is common. These are things that you probably have done throughout your life, even though you don't have work experience. Like think about what you did in school. Think about what you've done when you played video games. Think about what you've done when you're hanging out with family, right? Like the achievement doesn't have to be, here's the thing I think people get hung up on, is like they think an achievement has to be work related. And the reality is no. And let me tell you why. A few years ago, I went to a seminar to learn about project management and how to get your PMP certificate for project management professionals. And what came up was surprising. It takes 10 years. You need to have 10 years of project management experience in order to qualify for the PMP. But this is where it gets really interesting, is that the trainer said that they're very flexible on what qualifies as experience. So a project can be like something you did at work, of course, but a project could be something you did at school, something you did in high school or college. It could also be something you did for family. It could be a volunteer event. Maybe you helped them organize a garage sale. Maybe you cleaned up the apartment, whatever it is. Like even the smaller things can qualify for experience for your PMP. Now, that's really interesting to me because my whole life I'm thinking like, it has to be like work related. And the reality is like the goal of achievement is not necessarily to be like specific to the job. The goal of achievements is to show your character. When you're creating your resume, your CV, or your application, whatever you're going for, your achievements is not necessarily directly related to the job. It's about what can you do for the other person. So I want you to have that mindset. The achievement's not like I accomplished this many cool stuff. It's so much I accomplished this stuff, therefore I can do it for you. So it doesn't matter whether it was free work or was paid work. And one of the things I've talked about in another video for international students is that you can use volunteer work as well. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the achievements that you or skills that are required for the jobs you're looking for. Think about like, have I done this in other areas? Now, one more point I want to make before I move on to the next section is a book I actually recommend. I haven't gotten into detail about this one, but I'm still going through it right now as I'm talking about this. It's the book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and I'll put the description below because there's a very specific section that Maxwell Miles found, which was that a lot of people have a hard time identifying achievements and saying this is my achievement because someone else did it for them. So maybe don't call it an achievement. Call it something else. Like maybe you did something successful. Maybe you helped someone out. Maybe you were part of a team. Remember, achievement does not have to be a literal, oh, I got a reward, or I achieved this magnificent thing. Achievement can simply just be, I did something. I was part of something. I helped with something. I supported something. Okay, but what about in the situation? What if you've gone through your deep dive? What if you've gone through your past experiences? You went through high school and college experiences you went through. You talked about your family experiences. And you don't have anything that's relative to the jobs or positions or skills that you're interested in. So whether that's like you want to be an application developer, or you're like you want to do something with writing, and you don't have those specific achievements that they're looking for. You don't have the skills they're looking for. Well, I have some suggestions for you as well that you can start doing now. So I said it before, but I highly, highly recommend volunteer work, because volunteer work, even though it's not paid, gives you skills and achievements that you can talk about that you accomplish if you do the right one. So make sure when you're choosing volunteer work that you understand the volunteer work that you're doing. You know, if you just go to a food drive and just pass things out, then that's not really an achievement. But if you went to a food drive and you led the organization, you created a plan to help people out, that would be an achievement. You can still go to a food drive and still just be a good worker and just say, I followed instructions diligently. I wouldn't use that one, but like that's an example to kind of like get you prime thinking. Like, especially as a fresher, the expectations are very low. Like, they're just looking for someone who's going to come in and just like learn and absorb, as well as apply what they've learned in college. So you don't have to have these huge, like, grandiose achievements. Just find something that you can use. So remember, with volunteer work, the goal is to find something that is relative to your role that you're interested in, that's going to help you. The other thing I would recommend to you that you can do, that you can add to get any achievements you're missing, and things you need, any skills you need, is look for certificates you can take online. So there's quite a few courses you can take for free or for very cheap on different skills. So for example, I learned a lot of Excel, Access, and SQL after college just going on YouTube. And when I would apply for jobs, they had me take these tests called the Prove It tests. And these are to check to see if you can actually do the skills that they require for the job. So, you know, I took the videos online, just practiced at home and at work with the skills, like how to use like macros in Excel, for example, how to do VLOOKUP and pivot tables in Excel. And so when I got to the test, I would pass it pretty easily because I'd done it. You see, what the point I'm trying to make is, like, you can cultivate your own achievements without having to get the job. You can go now and get the experiences you need so you can build the achievements. Like, do not wait for someone to give you a job to give you achievements. Instead, what you need to do is go and get your achievements yourself. There's one last thing I suggest for you, and it's a few different tests you can take. Some of these are personality tests, like the Myers-Briggs. The one I prefer is called 16 Personalities. That's the version of Myers-Briggs that I like, and that's free to get it. And it comes back and tells you, like, here's all the things about you that are interesting. Here's all the things about personality. The other thing that I recommend is a book called Strength Finders 2.0. It's a book on how to identify your strengths, and you actually take a test at the end. And it comes back and tells you, here's your top 5 strengths. What does that mean for you? It might come up with some more specific examples based on how you answer certain questions, because each question has a weight to different points, and it has different ways of coming up with results. So for example, for me, one of my strengths was being adaptable. And I use that in both my summary, my resume, as well as some of my achievements. So if you go back to my resume, my very first job was an accounting assistant. It's not necessarily an achievement, but I said, demonstrated initiative when processing payments. You know, is that really an achievement? No, it's like this, but that's something that I saw in the job descriptions, was that they wanted to see someone who demonstrates initiative, and I was adaptable, so I put that into there as my part of my achievement. It's like, oh, like that could be an achievement for my job. All right, so to conclude this video, I've talked about how you can go back through your history and find achievements in your life. And I reminded you that achievements don't have to be work-related achievements per se, because of the PMP example. To get the 10 years work experience, to get the 10 years project management experience, doesn't have to be work experience. It can be flexible. I also gave you a few different options on how you can go get achievements now instead of waiting for something to happen. Things you can do, like do volunteer work, find some courses, find some certificates you can take online, YouTube videos, and personality tests that you can take. All right, so my question for you is, what are you going to do next now that you know that you have all these options to figure out what achievements you have or what achievements you can cultivate? Do you need to go back to your past and say, are there achievements in the stuff I've done in the past? Or do you need to go and learn new skills because the jobs you've identified as the jobs you're interested in require specific skills or achievements that you haven't accomplished yet? Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out some other stuff I have here on the channel. And also, if you'd like some additional help with your resume or CV, I have a checklist that I use when I am auditing my students' resumes or CVs. This is the exact checklist I use to see how are they doing. I check to see like how their bullet points are written out, how their summary written out. Do they need to improve their achievements, make it a little bit pop a little bit better, to use better vocabulary? So check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much.